There are secrets that were never meant to be discovered, hidden information that has been deliberately erased from history so that you would never know the truth. The fifth dimension is not just a spiritual concept. It is a portal to a level of consciousness where you can see beyond the veil of reality. But there's something you need to understand. There's a reason no one talks about it openly. Since ancient times, secret societies, governments, and control systems have been manipulating knowledge of this dimension. They know that if you access this consciousness, you become uncontrollable. You free yourself from imposed limitations and begin to see the invisible structure that keeps humanity trapped. And here's the most frightening part. The closer you get to the truth, the more signs begin to appear. Strange coincidences, unexpected obstacles, people trying to convince you that this is crazy. But don't be fooled. None of this is a coincidence. The question is not whether the fifth dimension exists or not. The question is, why have so many efforts been made to ensure that you never understand it? Today, you will discover why the fifth dimension is such a well-kept secret, who benefits from your ignorance, and how this hidden truth may be manipulating your life without you even realizing it. And stay with me until the end, because there's something crucial you need to know before attempting to access this new reality. What I'm about to reveal could completely change the way you see the world. But once you know it, there will be no going back. The fifth dimension is not a place. It is a state of consciousness where the perception of reality expands to levels that the ordinary mind cannot comprehend. At this level, you see the hidden connections between all things, perceive invisible patterns, and begin to understand truths that society insists on calling fantasies. And here's the problem. A world where everyone awakens to this level of consciousness would be an impossible world to control. Think about the system you live in. Everything was designed to keep your mind operating at a limited level. You are conditioned to accept a narrow view of reality, where what you can or cannot do, what is possible or impossible, has already been predetermined for you. But what if I told you that all of this is just a distraction? Think about how your routine is shaped. News that dictates what you should fear, a system that pushes you into scarcity, beliefs that limit your view of what is possible. Now stop for a moment and reflect. Who truly benefits if you continue operating at this low frequency? If humanity awakened to the fifth dimension, this whole system would lose control over you. Fear would no longer work. Manipulation would have no effect. Limitations would simply cease to exist. But there's a reason for this being hidden. There's a reason for the awakening to be ridiculed. And now, let's get to the most revealing part of this video. The evidence that hidden forces are actively preventing humanity from reaching the fifth dimension. Have you ever noticed how it seems like there's never enough time? How your life is always speeding up, as if there's an invisible clock pushing you, charging you, demanding that you run all the time? This is not normal. This is not a coincidence. This is psychological engineering. Since the moment you were born, you were taught that time is money. That productivity defines your value. That if you're not chasing something, you're falling behind. But behind what? The system created this constant sense of urgency because an overloaded mind does not question, it only obeys. You wake up already feeling pressure. Work demands more and more. News bombards you with crises and disasters. Social media makes you feel like you're always behind someone else. Your time is never enough. And here's the detail that no one wants you to realize. The faster you run, the more trapped you become. The fifth dimension requires presence. Accessing it isn't about learning something new, but about remembering what's already inside you. But for this to happen, your mind needs silence, reflection, space, and the modern world was designed to ensure you never have these moments. Have you ever noticed how time feels different depending on what you're doing? If you're anxious or distracted, it feels like it disappears. But if you're in a moment of connection, of clarity, time expands. This is because the perception of time is a mental construct, and this is exactly where the manipulation happens. By keeping you constantly busy, always exhausted, always feeling like you owe something, The system keeps you in a low vibration reality. You become a slave to urgency, trapped in the third dimension where everything seems linear and limited. But time is not a straight line. It bends, adapts, and molds to your frequency. In the state of consciousness of the fifth dimension, time responds to your energy, not the other way around. And that's why hurry is poison, because it traps you in a cycle where your mind never slows down enough to perceive the truth. And the most insidious part, they know that if you discover this, the whole system collapses. Because when you begin to free yourself from urgency, something incredible happens. You realize you don't need to run, that you are not lacking, that you already have everything you need within you. And the moment you stop obeying this artificial pressure, you become uncontrollable. But they cannot let this happen. So what do? They create a world where rest generates guilt, where slowing down is a sign of weakness, where those who question the frantic pace are called lazy, disconnected from reality. Do you see the game? And here's something no one will tell you. The true masters of reality, those who access elevated states of consciousness, don't run, they don't rush, they flow. They know that time is not an enemy, but a tool. But for you to discover this, you first need to break this programming. The question is, can you stop right now for a moment and feel what's really going on inside of you? Can you turn off the rush, even if just for an instant, and realize that this urgency has been implanted? If you do that, something begins to change. Small at first, but powerful. Because that's the first step to getting out of the game. And once you realize that time has been manipulated to keep you trapped, you begin to see the other mechanisms as well. And one of them is even deeper, the collective fear. But this, we're going to talk about now. Have you noticed how fear is everywhere? How it seems that each day new crises appear, new threats are disclosed, new reasons are given for you to worry. Wars, pandemics, financial collapses, violence, scarcity, natural disasters. Fear never ends. It's relentless, suffocating, and it's not by chance. Fear lowers your frequency. It paralyzes you, puts you in a survival state where you don't think, you just react. When you are afraid, you obey. You follow orders without questioning. You seek protection in those who promised you safety, even if it costs you your freedom. And here's what no one wants you to realize. Every time humanity starts to awaken, a new wave of fear is activated. Sounds crazy? Then look back. In the moments when people began to question the system, what happened? Crises emerged. Catastrophes were amplified. The media intensified its programming, and suddenly fear took over everything. This happens because fear is not just a feeling. It's a tool of control. The world you see is not the real world. It is a narrative constructed to keep you in a constant state of alertness. They know that a frightened population has no time to think, reflect, or awaken. A panicked mind never accesses the fifth dimension. And here's the truth that few have the courage to accept. Fear is not only imposed, it is addictive. The more you consume it, the more you need it. It becomes a cycle, a programming that traps you. You feel anxious, search for information, and what do you find? More negative news, more reasons to worry, more reasons to believe the world is in chaos and that you have no way out. But now, stop and think. When was the last time you truly felt at peace? That peace is inside of you, it always has been, but you were trained to ignore it, to believe that reality is dangerous, unpredictable, desperate. Now see what happens when you refuse to be controlled by fear. You realize that danger is not absolute, it is selective. The crises you see are not new, they are recycled. The panic that dominates the world is not natural, it is cultivated. And when you refuse to be manipulated by fear, something changes. You start seeing patterns. You begin to realize that behind the chaos, an awakening is happening. Fear is the wall that separates the third from the fifth dimension, and only those who have the courage to cross it can see what lies beyond. Now the question is, are you ready for this? Because if you are, there's something even deeper you need to understand. And this leads us to the next piece of evidence: the bombardment of distractions and mental overstimulation. Think about your day-to-day. How many times has your attention been hijacked today? Notifications on your phone, messages, short videos, alarming headlines, ads, endless entertainment. Your mind is at war, and you didn't even notice. But here's what no one tells you. This war was designed. Accessing the fifth dimension requires mental clarity. But how can you expand your consciousness when you are constantly being distracted? How can you access elevated states of perception if your mind never slows down? This is not an individual problem, it is a collective attack. Attention is your most valuable currency, and whoever controls your attention controls you. Now think, who is winning with this? The answer is simple: a system that needs you to be busy all the time, but without realizing what really matters. Notice how everything around you has been created to prevent you from having moments of silence. Social media was not made to connect you. It was made to addict you. Entertainment was not made to relax you. It was made to hypnotize you. The flood of information was not made to educate you. It was made to overwhelm you. And when your mind is full, there's no space for questioning. You become just a consumer, a robot programmed to react to what's put in front of you. Now stop for a second. Breathe. When was the last time you were alone with your own thoughts? Without a bees, video playing in the background, without your phone vibrating, without the world trying to pull your attention in 1,000 directions at once? The answer to this question is proof of what they've done to you. And why does this matter? Because true transformation only happens when you regain control of your mind, when you choose where your attention goes, when you realize you don't need to absorb everything they throw at you. The fifth dimension cannot be accessed by a saturated mind. If you want to break out of this cycle, you need to relearn how to think. You need to filter what you consume. You need to ask yourself, does this elevate me or does it trap me? And if you think this bombardment of distractions is just a side effect of the modern world, then get ready, because the next piece of evidence proves this is far more intentional than it seems. Have you ever wondered why, even when trying to elevate your energy, you sometimes feel an invisible weight, a mental fog, an inexplicable fatigue, a feeling of being trapped in something you can't see? This is no coincidence. It's a silent attack. The system doesn't just manipulate your mind, it intoxicates your body. Think about what you consume every day. The food, the water, the air, the invisible substances that enter your body without you realizing. They're not just affecting your physical health, they're affecting your vibrational frequency. The pineal gland, known for millennia as the eye of the soul, is one of the keys to accessing elevated states of consciousness. But have you noticed how little is said about it? Because here's the truth. The pineal gland is under constant attack. Fluoride in the water, heavy metals in the food, chemicals in the air, electromagnetic radiation, all of these calcify this small gland, making it inactive. And when the pineal is blocked, your perception of reality closes off. You lose your natural connection with the invisible, with intuition, with the energy of the universe. This was done on purpose. Ancient civilizations knew the power of the pineal. They knew that an active gland could open portals of perception, expand consciousness, and free the individual from external manipulation. But what if you are deprived of this knowledge? What if the system ensures that you grow up without knowing how to detoxify your body, without understanding the importance of natural food, without realizing that you are being slowly programmed to accept this poisoning as normal? Now think, what happens when a poisoned organism meets an overloaded mind? The result is what we see today: a sick, exhausted, anesthetized society. A population that accepts living on autopilot because they simply don't have the energy to awaken. And all of this is reinforced by conventional medicine, which doesn't teach prevention, only treatment. The symptoms are suppressed, not resolved. The body is overloaded with synthetic substances, while true healing, conscious eating, energy practices, connection with nature is ridiculed or ignored. Now, look at your own life. Do you feel that your energy is where it should be? Your body is the vehicle of your consciousness. If it's intoxicated, your vibration is sabotaged, and the question is, what can you do to regain control? If this bothers you, wait until you see the next level of this manipulation, the ridicule of spiritual awakening. Since early on, you were trained to doubt your own intuition. As a child, you felt things you couldn't explain. You perceived energies, had vivid dreams, intuited truths no one taught you. But what did they do? They said it was imagination, that it was nonsense, that you were just fantasizing, and that was the first step to disconnecting you from your own essence. But why such insistence on making you believe that the spiritual is not real? Because the truth is dangerous for those who need to keep you trapped. If you understood the power of your consciousness, you wouldn't need intermediaries to connect with the divine. If you understood how energy truly works, you wouldn't depend on external systems to seek guidance. If you discovered that reality is malleable and that you can influence it, you would never accept living under control again. Now think, who benefits if you keep believing all of this is nonsense? They taught you that spirituality is superstition, but exalted materialistic science as the only truth. They created religions that make you seek a power outside of yourself when it has always been inside. But the worst part, they made those who awaken be ridiculed. Call someone a conspiracy theorist and no one will take them seriously. Say someone believes in energy and they will laugh at them. Make awakening seem like something for lunatics and no one will be interested in investigating. This is the game, and it's so well architected that the very sleepwalkers become the system's guardians. They repeat the same programmed lines. This is conspiracy theory. If it were true, everyone would know. You need to be more realistic. What they really mean is, go back to the programming. But here's what they can't avoid. The truth always finds a way to emerge, and if you've made it this far, it means that on some level, you already know something is wrong. The question now is no longer whether this is happening. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Because now that you've seen what's happening, there's no going back. And this leads us to the most important part of this video, how to break this cycle and access the fifth dimension. Now that you've seen all of this, does it make sense to you? Are these events around you really random? Or are you starting to see what's really going on? The reality they sold you was carefully shaped to keep you distracted, fearful, intoxicated, and disconnected from your true power. But here's something no one told you. Awakening is not a privilege, it's your right. And when you begin to question, when you see the patterns, when you feel that unease inside of you, it means you've already taken the first step. The fifth dimension cannot be erased, only hidden. And once you awaken to it, the control over you weakens. It all begins with awareness, noticing the patterns, questioning the information, disconnecting from distractions, and strengthening your own inner connection. The world will always try to pull you back to automatic mode, but it's up to you to decide what frequency you want to live in. And here's the most powerful truth. When you break this illusion, no one can manipulate your perception anymore. You become the sole authority over your own reality, and this is the true secret that no one wants you to discover. Today, you've discovered that the fifth dimension is not just a spiritual concept. It's a state of consciousness deliberately hidden. We've seen how fear, haste, intoxication, and distractions are used as tools to limit your awakening. This is no coincidence. This is reality engineering. Now, the question is no longer whether this is happening, but rather, what will you do now that you know the truth? Awakening doesn't happen all at once. It's a process, but it starts the moment you decide you will no longer be a prisoner of this illusion, and this decision has already begun within you. You felt it throughout this video. Something resonated. Something inside of you realized that you always knew there was something wrong with the world. And now, you have the pieces of this puzzle. The question is, will you ignore it, or will you take action? Change happens when you take control of your own perception, when you stop accepting everything that's imposed and begin to question, When you realize that the world they told you to see is just a distorted version of reality. Now, I want you to affirm your awakening. Comment below. I free myself from the illusion. Write it down. Leave this phrase as a commitment to yourself, because the moment you write it, you make this decision real. You're telling the universe that you will no longer accept being manipulated. Thank you for your valuable attention. Your journey doesn't end here. Click on the video that's appearing on the screen now and continue expanding your knowledge. The next step is right in front of you.